8. Turning points drove Japan through a century of civil war, mass killing, and political collapse. We are ranking them by brutality and consequence, starting with the conflict that shattered all central authority. 8th place. The Onin War tore through Kyoto for 10 years, unleashing a wave of destruction that shattered the Ashikaga shogunate's authority and set Japan on a path toward a century of warlord rule. What began in 1467 as a succession feud escalated into urban warfare as rival armies under Hosokawa Katsumoto and Yamana Sosen fortified their mansions and turned the capital's streets into battlefields. Temple chronicles record the burning of entire districts, while archaeological layers reveal a thick band of charred timber from 1468 to 1475. The city's granaries, shrines, and markets were reduced to ash, and the imperial palace itself was left in ruins. Fiscal records from the Kanto region show a collapse in Kyoto's rice tribute by nearly 40%, a loss that crippled the central government's ability to function. The shogun retreated into obscurity, his decrees ignored as provincial lords seized the opportunity to tax and rule for themselves. The war's aftermath left the former capital depopulated and lawless, its power vacuum filled by ambitious warlords who would carve out autonomous domains. The Onin War did not resolve any succession crisis. It obliterated the very system meant to contain conflict, normalizing private armies and legitimizing violence as the only path to power. In its wake, the old order lay broken, and the age of endless civil war had begun. Number 7, Gekoku-jo. The rule of the low overturning the high defined the Sengoku period's political landscape. Loyalty became a commodity, traded for land or survival. Daimyos rose and fell through calculated betrayals, with records from the Kiyosu-ki and Chosokabe-ki chronicling dozens of coups and hostage failures. Petition data from the late 15th and 16th centuries reveal a surge in complaints over broken alliances, while clan chronicles note that over 40% of new lords seized power by deposing their superiors. The term Gekokujo itself appears repeatedly in period documents, signifying not just isolated treachery, but a system where mistrust and factionalism were the norm. This culture of reversals set the stage for the infamous betrayals that would later shake the era's most powerful figures. Number 6. The Matchlock Revolution changed the face of Sengoku warfare and deepened the suffering of ordinary people. After Portuguese traders landed on Tanegashima in 1543, Japanese foundries began producing thousands of arquebuses by the 1570s. Ashigaru, once low-status foot soldiers, were drilled to fire in volleys, unleashing a scale of violence never seen before. Jesuit letters from the period describe battlefields choked with smoke and the relentless crack of gunfire. Siege warfare took on a new brutality. Entire towns and temple complexes were set ablaze to break resistance, with civilian neighborhoods caught in the crossfire. Municipal death ledgers and battlefield archaeology reveal that non-combatants accounted for as much as 40% of war-related deaths. The spread of firearms did not just shift military power from elite samurai to massed infantry, it made every campaign deadlier for those with no stake in the struggle. Number 5. Oda Nobunaga wielded terror and reform as twin weapons to forge a new order out of chaos. In 1571, his forces descended on Mount Hiei, home to the Enryaku-ji monastery, and slaughtered thousands of monks and refugees. The Shincho Koki records the burning of temple halls and the display of severed heads along Kyoto's roads, a calculated warning to all who might resist. Nobunaga's violence was not random, it was institutional. He ordered a sweeping cadastral survey, translating every parcel of land into koku, the rice yield that became the backbone of his tax regime. Fiscal records from Azuchi reveal a sharp increase in centralized revenue, funding permanent garrisons, and the construction of fortified castle towns. Public executions and propaganda banners proclaimed his authority as absolute, while letters forged in the names of imperial envoys spread fear among rival lords. Nobunaga's rule was a relentless campaign of intimidation and administrative overhaul, a system where terror and bureaucracy marched hand in hand. His methods did not simply break the power of religious and feudal rivals, they established a new logic of domination, paving the way for the betrayals and upheaval that would soon engulf him. Number 4. The Honnoji betrayal shattered the illusion of absolute power at the height of Oda Nobunaga's reign. In the pre-dawn hours of June 21st, 1582, Akechi Mitsuhide's troops encircled the Honnoji temple in Kyoto, catching Nobunaga with only a handful of attendants. The Shinshokoki records Mitsuhide's proclamation that he had suffered great insults at the hand of his lord, and that day he acted for justice. Yet the speed and precision of the attack point to careful calculation rather than simple revenge. A Jesuit eyewitness described Mitsuhide entering the temple with a small force, claiming personal grievance, yet the speed of his attack suggests premeditation. Modern scholarship divides motive, with 45% assigning the act to vendetta and 55% to political opportunism. As Nobunaga set fire to the temple and died by his own hand, the power structure he built on fear and coercion collapsed overnight. The immediate aftermath unleashed a scramble for supremacy, exposing just how brittle loyalty had become under a regime of terror. Number 3. Toyotomi Hideyoshi's rise from peasant foot soldier to de facto ruler marked a radical break in Japan's social order. After seizing power in the vacuum left by Nobunaga's death, Hideyoshi imposed a national land survey between 1582 and 1585, the Taiko Kenshi, converting every plot into taxable rice yields and stripping local lords of fiscal independence. In 1588, his sword hunt ordered the confiscation of weapons from all non-samurai, severing the link between peasantry and armed revolt. Hideyoshi institutionalized the hostage system, compelling daimyo to surrender their heirs as collateral for obedience. These policies, described in the Taikoki and analyzed by Mary Elizabeth Berry, transformed conquest into a machinery of state control, regimenting society, policing class boundaries, and embedding violence within a bureaucratic order that would shape the coming Tokugawa regime. Number 2. The Battle of Sekigahara marked the final reckoning of open warfare in the Sengoku era. On October 21st, 1600, roughly 160,000 troops clashed in the mist-shrouded fields of Mino province, with Tokugawa Ieyasu's Eastern Coalition facing Ishida Mitsunari's Western Alliance. The scale was unprecedented. Daimyo diaries and demographic modeling estimate fatalities between 30,000 and 45,000, a range that reflects both official tallies and the likely undercount of Ashigaru and civilians caught in the crossfire. The tide turned when Kobayakawa Hideaki, a key Western general, defected mid-battle, triggering a collapse in Mitsunari's ranks. The aftermath saw vast tracts of land redistributed to Tokugawa loyalists, erasing old domains and cementing Ieyasu's supremacy. Sekigahara was not merely a contest of arms. It was a calculated purge, a mass culling that cleared the path for a new regime and signaled the end of a century of samurai anarchy. The Tokugawa siege of Osaka ended a century of civil war with overwhelming force. In the winter of 1614 and the summer of 1615, Tokugawa Ieyasu's armies surrounded Osaka Castle, bombarding it with artillery and infantry assaults. Burial records and demographic studies put the death toll between 25,000 and 35,000, including many civilians. The Osaka Gunki details the destruction of the Toyotomi stronghold and the elimination of its heirs. With the Toyotomi gone, the Tokugawa regime transformed samurai from battlefield warriors into salaried bureaucrats, their stipends tied to rice yields, and their loyalty tracked in payroll registers. The sword shifted from weapon to status symbol. Over the following decades, Edo thinkers codified Bushido, recasting the violence of the Sengoku era as a story of honor. But as Ikegami and Friday point out, this was a constructed myth, an ideological mask covering the new bureaucratic order. Peace was achieved not by ancient virtue, but by total victory and the strict regulation of a warrior class shaped by mass slaughter. The romantic image of the samurai grew from the ruins of Osaka, hiding the reality of a tightly controlled society built on the aftermath of civil war. Across all turning points, one truth stands. Power here was forged by betrayal and slaughter, not honor. The samurai legacy is built on violence, and its consequences echo into modern Japan.